Gonna start.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Unincorporated Alameda County Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. My name is Amber Lowe. I'm the Principal Civil Engineer for the Transportation Division at Alameda County Public Works Agency. And before we get started, I just want to go over a few announcements. We are conducting tonight's meeting remotely teleconference, and the teleconferencing guidelines were provided with the agenda. If you experience any technical difficulties, please call our help desk at 510-670-5755 for assistance. And public participants will have an opportunity to provide comments during public comments items on the agenda. And if you wish to speak, please raise your virtual hand to be called on. If you're joining by phone, please dial *9. And each member of the public will have up to 3 minutes to speak. I will put a clock up when they start to talk. And just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded. This is tonight's agenda. And I'm going to call the meeting to order. Today is March 28th. Time is 6:09. And I'm going to start with roll call now. BPAC members, I'm gonna call on guys. Sharon Bahoman, Chonita Chu.
Present.
Yay. Bruce Doogie.
Present.
Thank you. Rachel Factor. Daniel Leary. Dan Leary.
Here, sorry, here.
Thank you. Cindy Torres.
Present.
Crystal Wang.
Here.
Nikki Wente. Michael Williams.
Here.
We have 6 members with us tonight, so we do have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Let's see. I cannot see participants. Hold on. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, I'm going to Roy Taylor.
Hi, Amber.
Hello. It's just okay. I think I need to bring the clock back. Are you guys seeing the clock? Somebody?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. So yeah. Roy, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, thanks, Amber. No problem. I can see the clock. I guess I actually made the same point last time, which is around the, membership of this committee. It is the unincorporated BPAC. I'm a little perplexed at the membership and why there isn't more representation from actually residents of the unincorporated area. Because almost half of the members actually belong to other agencies. BART, HARD, and AC Transit. And they are actually, like Public Works, developers of the infrastructure. And you can't be, and yet this body is actually, put together to actually review the plans brought forward by the developers and actually give feedback. So, you can't be both. You're either going to be, part of an agency that puts together the proposes plans, or you're going to be on the committee that reviews and gives feedback on those plans. I don't know why, there's a conflict of interest there. Yeah, in fact, in today's meeting, you actually have somebody from, another agency who's on this committee giving a presentation. So I don't know, is that person going to give feedback on their own presentation? It doesn't make any sense. So there's very little representation from people who actually live in the unincorporated area. I think actually even some of the members don't live in the unincorporated area. So I'd really encourage you to kind of revise the membership and look at how you could actually get representation from people that actually live in the unincorporated area that are just residents that use these facilities and could actually give you, I think, much better feedback on priorities and from their perspective, how the plans, look to them. So that's it. I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I see Todd Nelson.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes. You may start to talk. I'll start the clock and then share my screen.
Okay, thank you. My name is Todd Nelson. I'm a resident of Pleasanton. I served on the Pleasanton Bike Ped Committee for 2 terms, and I am currently serving on the Alameda County Transportation Committee's BPAC. So I'm not speaking on behalf of any of them, only as a cyclist who rides a lot in the East County unincorporated area. I wanted to ask, perhaps on a future agenda item, for a status on the Niles Canyon Trail, the Essenpree Railway Corridor Trail. It's obviously a huge interest to this part of the county. We haven't seen an update in a while. I'm aware through watching the Rails to Trails Conservancy that there are a lot of grants available currently open for applications right now, and I know this is going to take significant funding before any real progress can be made. So anyway, I just want to express my support for the project and hope that it's under your jurisdiction and someone's assigned to driving this for funding sources, and perhaps we can see it on a future agenda. So that's all I had. Thank you for your time.
And then Tyler Dragoni.
Hi, commission members. I have a suggestion for the commission. City of Oakland has a report out of all the pedestrian or bicyclists injuries or fatalities that happened since the last meeting. So it would be great if we could get a report out just to keep the work of the agency and all you members into perspective, right? Because it's important what you do and the feedback that you give. So, I suggest that at the start of every meeting, there's a report out of injuries and or fatalities that happen within the unincorporated area when it comes to pedestrians and bicyclists. Another suggestion is it was really hard to find this meeting. I'm hoping that there could be a dedicated button on the Public Works website that takes you to agendas, minutes, and links to learn more about the commission members. Just wanted to say thank you for being great community partners in this, and look forward to the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see any more new hands up. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of minutes, and we'll do them one at a time. Last time we didn't have a quorum for approving the September 28th 2023 meeting minutes. Hopefully you guys had a chance to review. If anybody has any questions or comments or make a motion, we'll do them one at a time. For the
I have a
September.
motion to approve both meeting minutes.
Do both. Is there a second for?
I'll second.
Second. And then that was for both of them. You want to? Thank you. Okay. Oh, I guess sorry. We have to conduct a roll call for voting to approve the minutes now. I'm gonna go down the roster. Chonita Chu,
Approved.
Bruce Doogie,
Sorry, sure. I don't know if you can hear me.
okay, thank you, I heard you. Dan Leary,
Aye.
Cindy Torres,
I have to abstain. I wasn't here.
okay. Crystal Wang,
Yes.
and Michael Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. We have 5 out of the total number of members approving the meeting minutes, so they pass. Next item on the agenda is the presentation for the Somerset Avenue project. We have Bon Ing with our agency, Alameda County Public Works Agency. He's the project manager and project engineer for the Somerset Avenue improvements.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and share my screen right now. There. Can everyone see the screen? All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bon Ing, and I'm the engineer for this project. Tonight, I'll present you to the status update on the Somerset Avenue Improvement Project. A lot of progress has been made since our last meeting, and we are in the final stage of this project. Oops, there. Here is the project's typical section that is under its design. We typically have a 50-foot right-of-way along Somerset Avenue, with some short sections of Somerset having a wider right-of-way width. Within this 50-foot section, we have our current design with 5-foot wide sidewalks with pedestrian ramps at all curb returns, on-street parking on both sides, bus, bike, vehicle share travel lane with shared pavement markings. Also included as part of this project, but not shown here in this typical section, are intersection bulb outs, high visibility crosswalks, and rectangular rapid flashing beacons. This project will also include asphalt concrete overlay to rehabilitate the pavement. It should be noted that this current design allows the flexibility to alter the striping at a later date to incorporate Class 2 bike lanes. Right-of-way. This project required the permanent acquisition of minor right-of-way from 2 parcels to accommodate the new sidewalk. The acquisition of this right-of-way has been completed. Minor conform work behind the new sidewalk and driveways will be required from property owners. Permission from property owners to allow the county's contractor to perform this work will be provided under the permits to enter document. We are currently in the process of preparing these permit to enter consent forms to all affected property owners, about approximately 114 in total. Once completed, they'll be sent to each property owner for signature and execution. Utility relocations. We are working closely with PG&E and East Bay Mud regarding relocating and adjusting their facilities to accommodate our project. They are both currently designing the relocations and are targeting design completion by this summer with actual relocations to follow. The Castro Valley Sanitary District, AT&T, and CAPA have also been contacted regarding their affected utilities. We are targeting final design to be completed by this summer, followed by project advertisement in fall with a tentative construction start to follow thereafter. And this pretty much concludes our project update at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Bond. We'll now give opportunity to the committee members to for their questions and comments. I saw Bruce's hand first and then Dan. Go ahead, Bruce.
Sorry, took me a second to unmute. I want to say that this mixing of bicycles with cars is very cool. And especially for our students, we have, Somerset goes right by the high school. It also connects our middle schools. We have middle schoolers across town using that, Somerset. It also violates, ethics and all modern transportation thinking, as well as a number of board of supervisors approved policies, such as the Castro Valley General Plan, the Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan, the Climate Action Plan, and there's a whole bunch of complete streets policies. We have one ourselves for the unincorporated area that the Board of Supervisors have approved. Alameda County Transportation Commission and MTC and Caltrans have all strengthened their complete streets policies for all ages and abilities, such that in order to compete for funding. So they require a complete street for funding. We know the climate action is our climate crisis is one of the most existential issues of our time. 73% of the greenhouse gases come from cars. The most recent climate action plan, which is being worked on right now, actually lists that the #1 priority for both resilience and for greenhouse gas reduction is to develop and maintain a safe, connected, and continuous bike and pedestrian network. I think I mentioned a little bit about the context of Somerset. It's in the center, very much the center of our connected bike network. So it's a critical element to having a connected bicycle network. Connects our schools and the most likely users by bicycle, which would be the high school and middle schoolers. Many high schoolers already ride to the high school on their bicycles, but they ride on the sidewalk. And this idea of shrinking the sidewalk from 7 feet to 5 feet, it's also a popular pedestrian route. And so basically you're giving the cars all of this extra space. The 12-foot travel lane with an 8-foot parking lane is creating an absolute speedway. So it's going to increase speeds on Somerset relative to what we have today, furthering endangering any kind of a cyclist and also pedestrian. I do want to say if Alameda County insists on mixing bikes and cars, they should at least help cyclists as much as possible, which doesn't seem to be the case. I've seen the plans. There's, like I said, there should be 10-foot width lanes with 7-foot parking and maybe a 3-foot hatch separator between the two, because 12-foot travel lane is extremely fast. Adding speed cushions or speed bumps could help reduce some of the speeds. Sharpening the corners and adding double pedestrian ramps would also help reduce speed and improve pedestrian safety, which is not there. Adding frequent passing, 3-foot passing signs, and bikes may use full lane signs. So there's bikes may use full lane signs, and there's also this 3-foot passing signs that people are totally unaware. I have had so many problems riding down Somerset, particularly if you try to take the lane. And the wider you make the lane, the more difficult you make it for a cyclist to take the lane. So a 12-foot travel lane is much more difficult to take than like a 10-foot travel lane, like on Santa Maria. And I've had, I take video with all my, when I ride, and I submitted you many videos problems that I've had where drivers get upset and angry because they do not want to drive behind you. Your plan presently still calls for double yellow lines. That, visibility is actually quite good. There's just one little bend. So most of that should be dash lines. That will help cyclists because the drivers won't feel so compelled to try to share the lane, which is part of what causes such a problem. You should also, install hidden drains. I'm not sure if that's part of the project or not. I also want to say that Alameda, Public Works' own analysis showed that 52% of the community requested bike lanes in lieu of parking. 48% is not a majority. Your own parking analysis shows that all the cars fit on one side without even including the permanently stored vehicles. There's always a vehicle that has a cover on it. There's one over on my side that has all kinds of debris under it. So you're not even counting those that shouldn't be there. And also side streets that opens up parking. 13 out of 77 Somerset residents actually volunteered to give up their parking to have bike lanes. So that's pretty impressive because that's a free space that most people think they own. So for 13 out of 77 to volunteer to give it up is quite impressive. I also want to add that there's supposed to be a pilot project. The pilot project was agreed upon with David Halbert, Supervisor Halbert, and Supervisor Miley, and that needs to occur because the actual decider on this is the Board of Supervisors and not Public Works. So it's clear that the Board of Supervisors would like to experiment a little bit and try to figure this out. I guess that's it for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Bruce. I saw Dan's hand up next momentarily.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Bon, for the presentation. And I had a couple of questions. I noticed on the cross section on the width of the sidewalk being 5 feet. Can you talk a little bit about what's going to happen at the driveways in that narrow space, how the pedestrians are going to get through there, and how the car is going to exit on the driveways?
The driveway is going to be, because of the narrow sidewalk, it will be a depressed driveway, similar to a KC ramp to meet ADA requirements. And the 5-foot sideways are allowed to accommodate in the future if we were to decide to restripe this and incorporate Class 2 bike lanes. So from face to face, this will give us sufficient room to accommodate Class 2 bike lanes in the future. We would eliminate the 12-foot and make them 12-foot lanes to make 11-foot lanes. So that was the reason why we stuck with 5-foot, to provide flexibility.
So the thinking is, if there's a way to get to the bike lanes in the future,
it'll be just a matter of restriping. Now. Yeah.
But will the driveway still work though? Are you gonna have to modify the private property side?
No.
So you just bring the street up, or you change the grading in the street to make the backside match, basically?
The Class 2 would be on the roadway, the travel way. We would eliminate parking.
Okay.
To allow the incorporation of Class 2 bike lanes on the roadway.
Okay. Now, the other thing too, though, with that narrow sidewalk is, what about the there's power poles in the sidewalk?
We're going to work with PG&E to sort of get as close as possible in the face of curb and provide ADA clearance, 3-foot clearance.
Okay.
Between the poles. Yeah.
So you'll have to do some paperwork on that, right?
Yeah. So we met with PG&E already, so they'll work on design. They know our ADA requirements for clearance from the back of pole to the back of walk.
They can't. Is there a plan to move the poles or just?
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, the poles are not the correct position. We got quite a few poles that will be relocated. Okay.
And then I was interested in the. I'm sure you're aware there's a new assembly bill. It's called AB 413 about it's now state law. We don't even have to ask, I don't think. 20 feet on the corners
Right.
of each. Are we going to take advantage of that in the design?
That's something I'm going to be discussing with our traffic engineer, our traffic staff person on this.
I would think we could just take it. We could just at least get that because that's going to help us with the corner sight distance.
Right.
And we have the state law that to back us up on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that might help quite a bit because there's a lot of T intersections. So that'll give us some more coverage on the corners. What about sorry, but it's a dumb question. Is this a bus route?
That was my question. Shoot.
Well, I guess we
I'm
should ask
sorry.
somebody
Oh
else here.
Lord, I was trying to raise my hand. Forgive me, but I did need. I'm
No,
trying to
please.
raise.
Actually,
No, I'm
maybe I'll
trying to
pause
raise
for
my
a
hand.
moment.
I got my own question.
It used to be a bus route, but there's a temporary bus route. I forgot what it was called.
Okay.
It serves private citizens, I believe. I forgot what that service was. I spoke with AT Transit. That's why we're keeping 11-foot lanes to allow transit through this corridor.
Okay. I think I have some more questions, but I kind of want to hear what other people have to say. Let me pause right now.
Earlier I saw Cindy's hand up, and then it was Crystal, then Chonita. So Cindy, if you want to unmute yourself and speak.
Sure. Yes, it's a partial bike lane. It goes down from Stanton onto Somerset and then goes down Lake Chabot Road. That's the only part of the AC Transit goes down. It doesn't go down the whole street. But this is a Somerset is in the heart of a densely populated neighborhood, and it's on the border of an SB 1000 priority population, and they already suffer disproportionate health impacts compared to the rest of the population in the area. The priority should be to keep this safe for all these students and the schools and the churches around there. I can't understand why we are designing any streets in the future not to include bike lanes. Our streets can't take any more cars. We need to find another way to commute, whether it's for business or pleasure. And pedestrian safety, I mean, this is the BPAC. I mean, we should all just be screaming right now to have bike lanes included. We hear about accidents every single day that could have been avoided. So this needs to be designed with bike lanes included. Absolutely. I don't think we can say it enough. Thank you.
Crystal?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks, Bon, for the presentation. I just have a couple questions. So I know right here it shows that the typical, for the typical section, the sidewalk width is 5 feet. But was there an opportunity to make the sidewalk area 8 feet, at least just at the bus stop areas? Because for ADA purposes, in the event that someone in a wheelchair is trying to get on or off the bus at a stop in the project area, it's important that there's an 8 foot by 5 foot clear landing area for the wheelchair ramp to be deployed from the front of the bus.
Hey, Crystal, maybe me and you could get together after the meeting and take a look at where the bus stops are located. Because like I mentioned earlier, in some sections of Somerset, we do have a wider than 50-foot right of way. So we'll take a look at that, me and you. We could do that after the meeting.
Okay. And then, yeah, my second question was also just related to the bus stop areas. I think currently some of the bus stop areas don't have red curb. And I was just wondering if red curb will be added at those existing bus stop locations.
Yes, because I believe I spoke with you like about a year ago about these bus stops and red curbs. You made some suggestions about red curbing and also moving the bus stops forward.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I took your comments into consideration and We made red curves on those.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
And I'll forward those to you to make sure I did it correctly.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Chonita?
Hi, I just have a couple of questions. One is how is the bus and the bike lane sharing a route? That looks kind of dangerous to me. And are they sharing a route or a lane? Because it doesn't look good. It looks unsafe.
Currently, they're sharing the same lane.
Currently, so you're thinking about maybe
And
I don't know.
yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Just asking because that I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how the buses are sharing bike lanes. I just can't figure that out yet. Thank you. I'm done.
Thanks. Michael Williams? Michael, you're muted.
Sorry, that's weird. I thought I unmuted it. Sorry. So Bond, what's the primary reason that it's not being designed for the class 2 right out the gate? Is it just the parking? Is that like that one issue, or are there other considerations that preclude it?
Obviously, space is the problem. You know, parking. To incorporate bike lanes, we have to remove parking.
Okay.
But again, like I said, I guess in our past public meetings, the consensus was parking was favored to be retained.
Mm-hmm.
So at this time, again, like I say, if the community consensus changes in the future, again, this design will be able to accommodate class 2 bike lanes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I just needed that.
Dan, I saw your hand go back up.
Yes. Vaughn, I heard you mention that there's going to be, did I hear you say there's going to be RRFBs added to this corridor?
Correct.
What locations are they going to be? I'm looking here on, do you remember which intersections?
Hold on, let me pull up the plan. Where there are currently bulb outs right now.
Is it at Wisteria Street? Is that one of them?
Hold on, let me get my glasses. I apologize, I got to switch glasses.
Okay. The reason I asked that question is, so there's more than one. We're adding a couple of RRFBs.
Three locations okay. At the bulb outs. Is
there any? Well, right now there's
one at Wisteria.
Okay.
One at Anita.
Wisteria. What's the other one?
Anita.
Okay.
And San Miguel.
All right. And so now, right now, for example, Wisteria does not have curb extensions. So you're going to add curb extensions at those locations?
Correct.
Did you consider the area that seems pretty sparse in terms of street crossings is between Lake Chabot Road and Stanton? Is the project going to add any like, well, I know there's Louise Court, and then there's is it called Sprague?
Yes.
Probably, yeah. Or Betros.
So for those, I narrowed the curb return radius, reduced it down.
Okay.
So I could shorten the walking distance. I believe I narrowed it down to 15-foot radiuses.
So you
sharpened the curve, reduced the crossing distance.
But those don't receive new crosswalks or curb extensions?
No.
You might want to consider that. It would sort of break up that long. That stretch there is 1,000 feet long. If there was maybe a cross, between Stanton to Lake Chabot Road is over 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
If it's safe, maybe a curb extension, either at Louise or Sprague.
I tried to limit my curb extensions so I balance it out, because once you put curb extensions, you kind of force, if we do put class 2 bike lanes, now you're gonna force the class 2 bicyclists onto the roadway.
Okay.
So it was a sort of balancing act, but me and you
Okay.
could discuss more about this in
All
detail
right.
if you like. Yeah.
Yeah. What about now are the new crosswalks going to be the high visibility crosswalks?
Yes.
And then you'll have the what about yield arrows on the approaches on those?
Yes. At the bulb outs, yes.
Okay. So I did hear some comments from committee member Torres and committee member Doogie about class 2 bike lanes. So we're all looking at this cross section here. Are you proposing that we take out parking on one side of the street? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. The north side.
I'll say absolutely
No,
yes.
I'm asking the committee members.
Yes.
Are we? I see parking on both sides. Are you proposing that we take? I do see many projects that are on arterial streets with surface parking lots that are commercial. You will see, in rare occasions, you will see parking be removed, but I can't personally think of a residential project where they took parking. Am I missing something?
Can I say something there to you, Daniel?
Yeah.
I live on Hampton Road and we have parking on one side of the street. I've lived here most of my life, and when I was a child, the county did eminent domain and took half of the yards of most of every resident on the street to make it a freeway. So it was a thoroughfare between Castro Valley and San Lorenzo. In 2010, they redid the streetscape finally and narrowed it for traffic calming. And unfortunately, they didn't consider bike lanes there, but they put 7-foot sidewalks on both sides. But you can't change the behavior of people. And it's known as a freeway. And we've actually had somebody killed here a couple of years ago because of the narrower streets and people driving as if it was a freeway that it was for many years. So yes, there is parking only on one side. It's a lot better because it's more visibility in place of a bike lane. But this street has a lot more than we have going on. There are churches, there are performing arts places, there are schools. It needs a bike lane.
Bruce, I wasn't sure if your hand was up the whole time or did you?
Yes, no, it's been up the whole time.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so I would like to first correct Bond. There is not a consensus that the people want to keep the parking. That is not true. The 52% in the poll that Public Works did, 27% asked for parking to be removed on one side, and 25% of the community asked for parking to be removed on both sides. And like I said in my earlier comments, there's enough room to accommodate the parking on one side. And Public Works has a history of removing parking. They've done it on huge stretch of Redwood Road near south of the freeway. So that's a residential area, but it has some businesses as well. But the part where they remove the parking is residential. Around the several places on Redwood, Santa Maria near the post office. Anyway, there's a lot of places, that you can remove parking. So I just want to make that comment. Also, I was wondering if you could move the poles, these power poles. You talked about going to the face of the sidewalk. Is that what you're saying? Is there a possibility to put it on the closer to the property and not closer to the street for the power poles? And then the other comment is, I guess he's not going to answer. The other comment.
Well, I'll have to discuss that with PG&E as far as reclaiming poles towards the property owner. The problem is when you, move it towards the property owner, there's rights issues because some of their lines may encroach into private property, so they may have to obtain aerial rights. So
okay, you know, to respond to Chanita, I know it looks terrible to have these cars right behind you while you're riding a bicycle or a bus.
Exactly.
Yes, and that's what they're proposing. So I have to ride under that condition right now. I do that on Santa Maria and I do it on Somerset. I live near the intersection of those two roads, and I do it elsewhere in the county. It's very stressful, very stressful. I've had many.
It's got to be stressful, and that's sucking in all them fumes.
Yep, yeah, and lots of close calls. So fortunately, I've not been hit yet, but I've had a lot of people yell at me and honk at me and you know, scream at me, and then the most dangerous of all, they take their vehicle, you know, their 4,000-pound vehicle, and they come really close to me as they pass, you know, and yell at me as they pass because they're angry. They tell me to get into the bike lane. They think that lane line is actually a bike lane. I've been told on Somerset at least twice to get into the bike lane. I don't know why they don't see that. If I'm riding in the parking lane, I would just go right into the back of the parked cars. But I had one guy insist just recently, you know, I was riding to home from the dentist. I have to take that road. There's no other way for me to get to my dentist. And I was coming back, and this guy, you know, did a real close pass. And then I followed him because the sheriff stopped issuing their 3-foot warning letters, education letters. And so I followed him. He turned into, you know, one of the apartments right there. And I asked him to please be careful. I got this all on tape. It's all on video. I've sent it to Public Works. I've sent it to the sheriff and to the CHP. And so anyway, that guy accosted me. He wanted to, you know, beat me up because I stopped to ask him to please be careful. So, and then I'm, you know, criticized for taking the law into my own hands, you know.
Somebody said earlier, you just can't change driver behavior. You shouldn't be going behind people because that's how people get killed and hurt and shot up.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Bruce, we're having trouble hearing you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm just saying, I can understand, but I'm just not real happy with the shared bike lane. That's something that should, I don't know. You're already getting rid of a lane on a lane of cars. I don't see why you can't put in a some kind of bike lane. I don't know, because I don't know about this. I really don't. I'm a pedestrian, so I have my own things to deal with, scooters and different things like that. So I can't tell you anything about bikes.
Just so you know, the cyclists right now ride on that sidewalk because they're afraid to ride in the street. And with this design, they're going to ride in the sidewalk even more. I might join them because the sidewalk will actually be continuous. And so it's going to, yeah, be, and it's legal there, but it's just going to endanger pedestrians. So it's a really, really dangerous design. It doesn't fit any of the modern transportation theory. Everybody is trying to you know, put in bike lanes and sidewalks so people can get out of their cars. We know that we need to get people out of their cars, and we keep doing the same thing over and over again by just keep adding cars. Okay.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna call on my director next. He's patiently waiting with his hands up for a while now. Daniel, you're on mute.
Thank you, Amber. No, I just wanted to give the folks an opportunity. This presentation, my understanding is to tell you the plan is about 98, 99% complete. This item was presented to the community as well as to you guys, I think sometime in June of 23 or 22. I don't think we need to go back rehashing. I think Bruce is absolutely right. We need to design things so that we can accommodate, you know, complete street. At the same time, we're going to have to listen to the community. We're going to have to listen to other voices. In this case, we had a series of meetings with various bodies, and the decision was that they prefer to keep the parking facilities. So what we have proposed here is we're hoping that maybe in the future people will change their views, and residents along, especially along Somerset, might say, hey, we prefer to have a better accommodation of bikes. My preference is usually wider sidewalks, to tell you the truth. But if these folks, those people that live along Somerset, decide we're going to have to modify, all we have to do is restripe these roadways. That's why they're designed the way they are right now. Is the way it's presented to everybody else, including the Board of Supervisors, is and the direction that we have received and pursued to get to this 95%, 99% design is we will put in initially a 5-foot sidewalk on either side, enough so that we can eventually come back and do a minor restriping to provide a bike lane. I hope that that's the ultimate outcome eventually, because like I said, we need to provide a safe facilities for everybody. Currently, Somerset does not have a bike lane. So what we're proposing is not going to change that. But at the same time, I'm also a very strong believer the residents along Somerset has a stake in their quality of life, their investment in their homes, and they've spoken. And there's no reason for us to go back and forth and say they didn't and did or that's something. But what we heard is very clear. And from what we heard, we presented to our board. We will implement this as designed right now. Now, there is a desire to put a pilot program. We'll contact Bike East Bay, which proposed. So they want to see if they can do a pilot. And I agreed that we could accommodate that during the construction before we do the final restriping. If they can come back with a model design for piloting, we'd be more than happy to help them. I've always had that commitment. So I just want the Bike Pit Group folks here to know we're committed to providing safe and multimodal facility in all of our designs. However, we also are obligated to listen to the community. And what the community at the time indicated for us was precisely what you're seeing right now. The option of providing this 5-foot sidewalk with the alternative of eventually restriping it is to show that our commitment that if as the views of the community change, maybe we can come back and make it a better way. But I would not venture to override the community's desire unilaterally from here. So as we move forward, this is to just help everybody understand. We are presenting this to you. This item was presented to you a while back, I think, if I remember correctly, in June of 23 or 22. And this item has gone to a series of community meetings, including our Transportation Planning Committee board member, where we received clear directions, and we pursued it to implement. We can opine about the various options, the desires, about the different policies and all that stuff. At the end of the day, we implement what we heard from the community and the direction that was approved by the board. So this is just to get you an idea that we, at this stage of 95% completion, we're not going to turn around and redesign this thing in a different way unless there's a clear direction again from the community as well as the board to do so. So, but I do agree with most of the statements being made. I agree that we should make alternative transportation a priority, most of our activities, both to make them safe as well as, Bruce's concern on global warming issues. I agree. And it's not that we disagree, but we have sometimes a conflicting interest. We have a view on this side, but the view of the residents, what we heard is totally different. So that's just wanted to give the folks so that we can move forward. We are moving with this design as presented to you, and the design, the status of the project is about 95% complete. With moving forward, we're going to be acquiring additional right-of-ways, access, right of entries and various things and we will put the implementation. I will make sure staff contacts Bike East Bay if they want to come up with a proposed piloting design, including communicating with the community as to getting the community buy-in on the piloting. I think we might be able to successful to kind of maybe do this bike lane scenario in the future. So this is just to give you a perspective of what this presentation is all about. We are not reversing the design at this stage. At this stage, we haven't. So I think the pilot program probably will be a good opportunity for Bike East Bay and the advocates of the bikes to do it in such a way that the community could actually support it, and not just impose a pilot on them, but rather use it as an educational opportunity to say, hey, we appreciate your need for parking. We appreciate some of these things, but can we try a win-win solution somehow and do that maybe using the pilot? So I think the opportunity to make it better is there in the future. At this stage, however, we're moving forward with this design as is because that's our authorized scope. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, I think that everybody had a chance.
I have some comments. Yeah, so I want to say that first of all, I would like to correct Mr. Wildesenbet. The community did not call for the retained parking. Only the residents who lived on Somerset, and they always will. You will never get a majority of any resident, on any street to give up parking. So that will never happen. But the majority of the community, because this is a public right-of-way, it's not a private street, is the majority, 52%, did call for parking removal. I already mentioned that 13 out of 77 said that live on Somerset actually said to remove the parking. So that's a pretty good ratio, given that they're giving something up. So it's not true that the community approved it. I would also like to say that it's a very unsafe. It's not safe. It's not safe. And even the like going to 12-foot travel lanes, it makes it less safe. It's actually going to be less safe because it's going to be a wider road, and the sharrows are very infrequent, and they need to have lots of sharrows. And right now, the proposal is not to have very many sharrows. I also want to say I do not believe that it's board approved. It's not an approval. The whole point is there was a transportation subcommittee meeting, and it's the board was David Halbert and Nate Miley who requested the pilot. So, and that's to help them decide whether they want to remove parking or not. So this idea that the board is approved it's defined is not true. So I just want to make sure people know that, so that the public, when they comment, that and when this thing was presented to us, Mr. Wildesenbet did not ask for our opinion or our thoughts at all. He just announced the choice. After there were 3 previous meetings, sorry, 2, I guess. There was a regular Somerset meeting that Public Works hosted. Then there was a MAC meeting, and then there was our meeting. And then after our meeting, there was that transportation subcommittee meeting. So that's a little more history on the project. So don't believe all that you hear.
Okay, now it's time to go to public comments. It was Rebecca Stanek Rankel. Sorry if I pronounced your last name wrong.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for this presentation today. I have a few comments on it. First, I will say that I am a resident of Somerset Avenue, and in fact, I live on the north side of the street. So I just want to point out that reiterating what Bruce and others have said is that there was actually not a community consensus or even a Somerset Avenue resident consensus to keep free car storage on both sides of the street. That is just not the consensus of the community. The survey showed that 52% of respondents were in favor of a bike lane at the expense of removing parking on at least one side of the street, if not both sides of the street. So, you know, the compromise win-win solution is actually removing parking on only one side of the street rather than both sides. Secondly, when this came to a MAC meeting, I don't even remember when at this point, but the vast majority of the community public comments during the MAC meeting was from people who were also willing to make that trade-off of losing, you know, again, subsidized car storage on one side of the street in favor of having a bike lane. You know, it's this proposed design is not safe. It is not, you know, I ride my bike on Somerset and every time I have a close call. And I'm kind of tired of that. And in addition, I see lots of students riding their bikes to high school and even middle school. And there would be so many more riding if there was a proper bike lane. And I missed the roll call at the beginning of the meeting. I don't know if anyone from CVUSD is here, but I would hope that they would also support this as a way to get, you know, getting students to school in this district is incredibly stressful. And, you know, if we could convert some of that car traffic to bikes, that would make everyone happier, including the people who are in the cars and driving. You know, I see no reason to not stripe it now for bike lanes. Like, as you know, what is the point of the BPAC if you're not listening to their guidance on bikes and pedestrians? And finally, the state of California is trying to invest money in mitigating, you know, climate change. And we're basically setting all of that money on fire if we're still building a road in 2024 that doesn't have a bike lane because we're too afraid to take away on-street car storage from one side of the street. I mean, this is just making everything worse. Why are we doing this? Why are we wasting money on a project that doesn't include a bike lane? And finally, I do want to thank Daniel Leary for his point about crosswalks. I think actually people don't know the state law about the sort of like implicit crosswalk that you can cross. So I think striping a crosswalk at those locations he mentioned would be very helpful and would perhaps decrease the anxiety of people who will now have to cross the street to get to a parked car. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Jill Holloway.
Hi, this is Jill Holloway. I'm the co-executive director at Bike East Bay. Our organization opposes the proposed Class 3 shared bike and car lanes on Somerset and urges the installation of Class 2 bike lanes between Stanton and Redwood Road as recommended in the unincorporated area's 2019 Bike Walk Plan update. Shared bike and car lanes on a street with car volumes as high as Somerset is incompatible with the all ages and abilities experience as outlined as the primary goal in the Bike Walk Plan, nor is it compatible with best practices, design standards developed by Caltrans or by the National Association of City Transportation Officials. We know that a significant percentage of people are interested but concerned about riding a bike on the street with traffic, and the mixing of cars and bikes in a shared lane really dissuades people of all ages and abilities from feeling safe using the street. Also, the Road Maintenance and Rehabilitation Program, SB1, being used to fund this project includes a complete streets requirement, except for when a parallel facility is nearby, of which there is none in this case. And I really appreciated hearing from so many of the BPAC members about how unsafe this looks and feels, and safety should be the primary factor by which this decision is made, and a Class 3 shared bike lane facility on Somerset will not provide the same level of safety as a Class 2 bike lane. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Rosabelle Chang.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, but it's a little bit quiet if you want to speak up a little.
Okay, how's that?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the meeting tonight. I have two children who do bike to school. So they bike to Creekside, and my son actually has to bike to CVHS, and then from CVHS to Creekside, and then Creekside home. And we live a little bit northwest of Al's Market. And I do remember the presentation 2 years ago about this. And I also remember the MAC meeting. So I'm always a little unsure about speaking up here because I feel like sometimes decisions are made. And so public comments just kind of go into the ether and don't do anything. But I will say that it's disappointing to hear that Public Works is presenting this as that the community agreed that this was the best option. I think that that's a misrepresentation of the polling that was done. It was basically 3 options. It was, you could make it analogous to option A, you don't want a smartphone. Option B, you want the iPhone 5, and option C, you want the iPhone 13. And most people chose B and C, which meant they actually wanted some version of a smartphone. In this case, they wanted some version of bike lanes, but it was presented as though people didn't want that. So I just would encourage that if what we're left with is an ability to convert this to class 2 bike lanes, that we please do that sooner than later. My fear is that a pilot project is set as a pilot, but it never goes anywhere and never does anything. And it's just basically a way to kick the can down the road until you hope somebody forgot all about it. This conversation started when my son was in 6th grade. He will be going into high school in the fall. And my daughter is in 7th grade, and it will be likely that by the time she is done with her time at Creekside, there will still be no bike lanes at to going on Somerset. And that makes me incredibly sad because it is very dangerous to ride. We have chosen to let our children ride because we think that kids who are independent end up being better community members. And I think that better community members make for better Castro Valley. But I refuse to let her ride by herself in the morning. I ride with her. And when they do ride by themselves, it's they have a little phone and it tells me their location, not because I want to track them, but because I'm deathly afraid that they won't make it home to me. So please think about making the pilot work, and please think about converting these to class 2. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Michael Freed.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I live on Hampton Road. I've not been a member of this group too often, although I do listen in sometimes, and I'm just sort of wondering when this plan is now 95%, 90% a done deal, it just feels to me like it's coming from the top down and has always been. When there are listening sessions, you get your 3 minutes, you come in, you give your opinion. Whether you're a resident on the street or not is important, but I just sort of comment that we have to be considerate of the property owners because it'll devalue their property or something like that. The property that's in question doesn't belong to the property owners. It's the county, so they should have a say. However, what I'm hearing is that their say has not been the majority of, changing it the way it's proposed. And I was looking at the cross-section, the diagram, and wondering if you look at Hampton Road, which is suffering from, too much traffic, but the decision was made when there was a comment made earlier that nobody was aware of other streets that only have parking on one side. This is a perfect example of how that could be done. And I'm just thinking that when my kids were growing up, I would never have them ride their bikes in Castro Valley or in the Cherryland area because of the traffic problem. One of my daughters attended Davis, and I was wondering in your research as to how to maybe mitigate this kind of thing, if people have ever done any studies of the intersections and the bike lanes that go all over Davis and on the campus and in the city of Davis. It's basically bicycle friendly, and trucks and buses and cars can take a back seat for a change. And I think that's a real good model to at least look at. And don't go for a pilot program that's going to, as was said, kick the can down the table. Institute it now And if you have to make any changes, then maybe increase the parking on the other side if necessary. But there's so many options that could be done. It's just a matter of not doing due diligence in terms of designing it to not look outside the box rather than just following suit. Anyway, my comments, and I don't even live in the area, but I'm very concerned. I don't ride a bike anymore because I got hit by a car, and I just can't afford to do it again. And it was in Berkeley where there are a lot of bikes going on. Anyway, thank you for your time, and I just hope you'll consider pushing it forward a little bit more to make some more changes before you make the final decision, start digging up the ground.
Thanks. Next is Roy Taylor. Roy?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. Do I just start?
No, I had to mute somebody because there was feedback.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Okay. Hey, well, first, I really want to thank the members of the committee for really being so vocal in highlighting the inadequacies in the design. I've never heard the committee members speak up so much, so it's really great to hear. Please keep doing that. Unfortunately, Director Waldesenbeck just told you it doesn't really matter what you say because they're going to go ahead with this design anyway, regardless of any of your feedback. If you as committee members are happy with that, then that's fine. If you're not, I'd encourage you to speak up and say that's not acceptable. Your role on the committee is to give feedback. You are advisory to Public Works, and they should be building to the extent that it's possible, that advice and feedback into the design. And many people have already mentioned this poll that was done. I actually submitted a public information request, and I have the copy of all the replies to the poll. If any of the committee members want that, I'd be happy to share. And it does indeed highlight that a majority of the respondents to the poll voted for, one kind of bike lane. The analogy of the iPhone was excellent. It was, it kind of is a split vote, but when you put together and say, well, you actually all wanted some kind of bike lane, that was the majority of view. So I don't know why it keeps being brought forward in defending this plan that wasn't the will of the people, but the will of the people was please build a bike lane. And, we'd like to see that. What else did I want to comment on? I would just say actually that, in terms of community support, there has not yet been one public speaker that has come forward and said, please keep parking. Yeah. Every public speaker has come forward and said, we should have a bike lane. I think that's very representative of the community feeling. Thank you.
There was a Jim Robson, but he's no longer in the meeting. Next we have Garland Diggy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for the ability to comment, and thank you for the presentation. I'm a little bit confused why this is even being presented to the BPAC if Public Works is just going to do what they wanted to in the first place. BPAC members, you have repeatedly said that this does not sound safe. That the traffic speeds are going to increase, that the conflicts with cars is going to get worse, and this alternative math that says less than half the people want to keep bike lanes constitutes the will of the majority. That's not true at all. So and lastly, that Supervisors Miley and yet who else I thought directed you guys to start with the bike lanes, not say, oh well, it can be added later. If Public Works is saying that this is 95% complete, and yet it's still a dangerous design, then in my mind, I don't care how far you've gone, you're going down the wrong road, and you're not even close to finished then. So to me, the safety is what needs to be emphasized, not parking. This plan does not do that. I've been on both sides. I've been the victim of motorist aggression. I've also been a motorist stuck behind a bicycle, and that's no fun either. So, you want to move cars, make sure there's no conflict between the bike and the car, because, I'm all for the the cyclist who is brave enough to take the lane, because it's their own life that's on the line there. And I've witnessed multiple incidents on this road, Somerset. So lastly, I'm going to say that if you say that it can be restriped for bike lanes, then please just start off with it. Paint is cheap, labor is not. I don't want my tax dollars paying for lines twice. So, please just think of just starting out that way. The alternative is that in 2012, there was a cyclist killed in Southern California, Indian Wells, when they removed bike lanes. And, the court found the city was, 35% responsible. That was $5.7 million lawsuit that the city had to settle for not providing safe biking conditions. If it's on record that everybody is telling you this is not safe, I want you guys to think hard about that, because hiding behind these supposed views of the community is not, is ridiculous. Please consider that. Thank you.
Paul Smith.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Paul Smith, and I'm a senior citizen. I guess I'm 68 years old, lived in Castro Valley for 32 years. And I bicycle. I take great pride in bicycling around town whenever possible. And I frequently go down Somerset, to get through town and to where I'm going. And I'm really disappointed to hear that there won't be, currently they're stating that there won't be a bicycle lane, which is greatly needed. I just feel like, as all the viewers listening know, that Somerset is a major corridor going through town. And it's really sketchy when you're going through. I often don't feel safe with car doors and parking and, just moving through. It would be greatly, it would be a great asset to the town, to the community, to have a Class 2 bike lane. And so I'll keep this short, but I just really am worried, as others have just stated, that there's going to be issues here if this if there isn't a bike lane, and it's greatly needed. I agree with many of the others who support a bike lane. Thank you.
Tyler Dragoni.
Yeah, if I could, speak in favor of what many, and to Roy's point, 100% of the people have said tonight. Our country was founded on, if we go back to John Locke, he talks about 3 fundamental principles: life, liberty, and property. Why is it from county officials we constantly hear just one of these aspects? Property rights. But the first one being life. The infographic that you show has that in danger for people who chose to take the liberty of attempting to get from one place to another outside of the one mode of transportation that the county seems to cater to, which is cars. So how is it that we only talk about one aspect, property rights, all the time? What about the right to be able to travel safely from one place to the next? As a taxpayer, frankly, I resent the project, because what you're doing is effectively spending money to redo what already exists. Save for the rehabilitation of the sidewalks, nothing is different. How can you justify that? If there is no bike lane, then cars get a place to park. If there is a bike lane, more travelers will be safe, but car owners must use their driveway. I'm not seeing the big controversy. having to use your driveway to park your car. It's a right of way. It's a publicly owned right of way, meaning ingress and egress for many modes of transportation. It's not a right of parking. It's a right of way. And just a little bit of another history lesson. Llewellyn Boulevard, before its rehabilitation, there was parking on both sides. During phase 1 of Llewellyn, both sides parking was eliminated. That is a mass removal of parking. Luckily, the county has the data to support that parking on Somerset can be moved to one side. So I'm really not understanding the controversy here, other than, like others have alluded to, our voice doesn't matter and the plan is already created. That is a wrong way to do public policy.
Your time's up. Mimi?
Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Hi. Well, I think people have pretty much already expressed my feelings. You know, I really believe that bike lanes are essential. It's been proven in other cities, other states, and other countries that bikes really do help with economic development as well as moving people safely. We all know that safety is a really big issue here in the unincorporated communities. I really believe this plan is very flawed. And I think we need the class 2 bike lanes. And I agree with the other speakers when they say that, why are we subsidizing free parking for people? People need to clean out their garages and they need to park in their garages or they need to park in their driveways. You know, that just seems reasonable. It seems reasonable to me that kids should be able to ride their bicycles to and from school safely without their mom having to come along on the bike ride to make sure that they're okay. I live on a very busy street as well. And I do ride a bike. And it's very scary. And when I am driving my car, I always give the bicycle the right of way because you know what? That's what people do that care about other people. They practice kindness every single day and they do the right thing. I hope that this plan is going to go back to the drawing board and it's going to get done correctly. I know that Alameda County, I found a video on YouTube about how Alameda County values public input and transparency and being great civil servants and serving the public well. Here's our chance to get our community leaders to do their jobs and serve our communities. Thank you so much for listening tonight. And I hope that we can make this happen and do the right thing. Good night.
Matt Turner?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So, yeah, there's just no reason not to have a bike lane here. This is just a real problem. I mean, something like the Buchanan Bikeway, there's examples all over Alameda County of ways to make a narrow road like this work. There are no safe routes to school currently. One of the biggest problems Castro Valley has is the massive traffic jam that happens all across our town because there's no busing and there are no safe routes to schools. And that creates a deadly, literally deadly hazard. You know, kids have died now because we don't have safe routes to school. And not doing something about that means that, you know, our public agencies are killing people unnecessarily. And that needs to stop. We need to actually prioritize safety. You know, the idea that climate action plan and all these other things are, on the books is meaningless unless we act on them. And it is essential that Alameda County Public Works acts on these plans and actually creates safe routes to school. Somerset not having an active transportation plan that's legitimate is really a black mark on the agency. And I'm going to do everything I can in lobbying the Board of Supervisors to have this plan rejected until it actually includes safe routes to schools.
And that is our last public speaker or comment. Next item on, we're going to move on to our next.
I just have another comment. I just want to say that we've had these public meetings that I've identified, and at every single public meeting, there's been more. This is even with the Somerset residents alerted to the whole thing with postcards, and every single time we've had more people, public speakers, speak in favor of bike lanes. So every single time. So I know we have 100% here, but this is a bike ped thing. But at all of the general meetings, so the consensus is that people want bike lanes. I also want to say that Supervisor Miley actually has requested as a pilot that the bike lanes be painted first, because Mr. Waldessenbet said paint's not a problem. That was his justification for going without bike lanes. So Nate says, well, why don't we just do the bike lanes and we can always revert it back? And so that's probably what we should do. And that's my going in position. And then I had one more comment. Oh, economic development. Yeah. So, everything, all the reports I ever read say, and I'm going to send this link also to the Public Works, there's a more recent one, that say that the economy, the bike lanes help the community and the economy. And this is very close. This bike lane is very close to the business district. So it will definitely help the business district to have a bike lane there. So thanks.
Okay, now I think that's the last comment we have.
No, I have, excuse me, I have my hand up, please. Cindy Torres.
Cindy, okay, go ahead, Cindy.
So we're ready to move on to the next item, but I don't think this one's finished. With all due respect, Dr. Wold-Desenbet, you said some things that have been contradicted in these, from 52% of the vote was to have bike lanes. Painted lines should go in first and reverted if not wanted or needed. So how do we finish this? How do we know 95% is not done? And why go down that road when the community doesn't want it? It's clear here. Has been made clear in other meetings, and we're still going to go down that path because we've had this conversation in this group before at other meetings where you have told us that the engineers are the experts. They know better. So why are we here as a advisory committee when we know our communities better than anybody? We walk them, we drive them, we bike them. We know of people who've been injured and killed on them. And we're just a tick the box here. So you bring this to us, we don't get any input, we don't get any we can't push back at all when you just lay the law to us all the time. So how do we resolve this? I don't think this issue is done. It's 95% complete. It is not complete.
It's the Board of Supervisors. That's how we're going to resolve
it. Daniel, are you there?
Yes. So I think yeah, it's a good idea to move to the next item. I think anybody that has, everybody has spoken. You know who your elected folks are. You can obviously talk to them. People interpret different things differently. I appreciate the advocacy, but I do not appreciate the misrepresentation by some of the folks. If you're interested in looking at the data, look at the data. If you're interested in what the decision was that was passed on, you can log in and find the Transportation Planning Committee's meeting. It's recorded. You can listen to that, what the final recommendation that the Transportation Planning Committee voted on. So I appreciate, the organized effort to make the case. Like I said, you are, you speak, we listen, but just remember, you're not the only voice. There's a lot of community. We went to the MAC, we went to the community, like I said, we went to the board. So, feel free to talk to your elected folks and lobby and get them to change the decision. However, the direction that we have received is exactly where we are right now. And that's the direction we're going to continue. So just remember, there's a broader community that more than just the BPAC or the MAX, and ultimately the decision obviously is going to be on the decision by the board. So this is not a public works only decision. We went through the process of trying to get feedback from everybody, including the MAC and the BPAC, and the BPAC expressed. So you all know about the public process, so you know what route to take. At this stage, we have received our direction from the Transportation Planning Committee. And the person, I think Jill was the one from Bike East Bay. I would encourage you, the decision was that Bike East Bay was going to work with my office here to come up with a pilot program, and we will contact Bike East Bay real soon so that we can get some kind of guidance or your proposed pilot approach so that we can incorporate it. However, I think Matt Turner is right. Talk to your elected folks. If you wanted to get some directional changes and things like that, yeah. And just remember, for the just misrepresenting some of the data received or reinterpreting statistical information to kind of fit in your own objective, it's okay for advocacy, but not very persuasive. So I would say, Amber, I think you have a lot more items. We've heard this, and we continue to hear from various folks. Let's move on. Thank you.
We'll move on to item 5B on the agenda, transit supportive design guidelines update from Crystal.
Yeah, and thank you again for the opportunity to provide an update on AC Transit's transit supportive design guidelines effort. So to refresh everyone's memory, AC Transit is currently in the process of developing transit supportive design guidelines document, and it's intended to lay out some design considerations and operational needs for transit and paratransit. And this effort is an update to AC Transit's 2018 multimodal corridor guidelines. So this time around, we're not doing a complete overhaul of that document. We're just making some updates to include considerations for paratransit access and some additional considerations for transit operations. And the main audience for this document is really city and county staff, as well as any consultants they work with, so that when they're designing projects like bike lanes and pedestrian safety projects, they can reference this document to get clear guidance on what it takes for transit and paratransit to be able to operate safely and efficiently on those same streets. And I do want to acknowledge that this is a document that's being put out by AC Transit, so of course the focus is going to be on transit, but we also want the street environment to be safe for cyclists and pedestrians, because anyone who's taking the bus is riding a bike or walking or rolling at some point during their trip. So this document is going to include information like bus stop dimensions, preferred bus stop locations, designs that aren't compatible with transit, and all the details about paratransit operations and needs. And it'll also provide some design recommendations for bicycle facilities at bus stops. Of course, AC Transit doesn't own any of the streets that we operate on, so the configuration of streets is ultimately up to the city or jurisdiction. And we understand that street designs are really dependent on site conditions like roadway speeds or right-of-way constraints or city or jurisdiction priorities. However, what AC Transit is thinking is our preferred bus stop bike lane configuration, wherever possible, is a situation where you have a bus stop boarding island where the bike lane is located behind the bus stop, and that bike lane is raised to sidewalk level. There are examples of this all throughout the East Bay. For example, one that comes to mind is in Ashland along East 14th. For example, East 14th and 167th Ave. And I'm happy to pull that up on Google Maps if that helps, if that's okay. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see that. This is just one example. And so in a configuration like this, you have a bus stop that's accessible. People using wheelchairs wouldn't need to navigate up and down a curb ramp to get to and from the bus stop to the sidewalk. And there's plenty of room for transit amenities like a shelter or bench. And cyclists get this high quality bike lane that's separated from vehicle traffic. So as part of this effort, we've been doing presentations to some other BPACs, some other groups, and accessibility advisory committees to get feedback on this kind of layout and just to get any feedback on people's current experiences with accessing bus stops or waiting at bus stops. And what we've heard so far is that people generally agree that this type of configuration can work well for all, but there needs to be a lot of care taken into design to make sure that there are features like detectable warning surfaces to help people who are blind or low vision navigate through this area, and signage or markings to help people avoid conflicts between the pedestrian areas and the bikeway. I also wanted to note that we have convened a technical advisory committee consisting of city and jurisdiction staff people, and we're close to having a full first draft of the guidelines document, which we will then be sending to those city and jurisdiction staff for their review and comment, since they will be the primary users of this document. And in terms of timeline, we expect to have the final guidelines document published by the end of June of this year. And again, the goal of this document is really just to make it clear what conditions are needed for transit and paratransit to operate safely and efficiently, but it's still multimodal in approach, and we're trying to lay out considerations that would be compatible for all users of the street. And in terms of the feedback we're hoping to hear from this group and just the public in general, we're interested in getting feedback on anyone's current experiences with accessing or waiting at bus stops, or maybe some examples of bus stops that you think work well or not well, and why. And that's all I have. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Crystal. We'll go to our committee first. Does anybody have comments for Crystal? Dan? You're muted, Dan.
Thank you. Hey, just a couple of questions, Crystal. Did you mention how soon do you think this document will be completed?
We will have a first draft going out to our technical advisory committee members. And that, again, that's the city and staff people probably in the next 2 weeks. And that's just the first draft. Yeah. And then we have the final, we expect that the final document will be published and publicly available by the end of June.
Is there going to be any kind of involvement with Caltrans to get their buy-in?
Yes, Caltrans is also part of our technical advisory committee.
And the last question, have you been able to find out through all this, do the bus boarding islands, has that increased ridership at all on your system?
It kind of depends on the design. Some have worked really well. We hear a lot about the ones in Oakland, if you're familiar with the bus rapid transit that we have running out in Oakland. Some people like those and some don't. Some people feel that there's not enough space on them. But generally, I haven't heard anything negative about boarding islands.
One thing I was going to ask you is, I don't know if the document will address this, but sometimes what happens with the bus boarding islands is that then the bus stop starts to get further away from the crosswalk. There's sort of a natural trade-off there. Is that, there's still a benefit to it, even with that condition?
Yeah, there is still benefit because the bus doesn't have to merge in and out of traffic. But of course, priority one is also safety and making sure the riders are able to safely get to and from the bus stop.
Well, thank you for bringing that to us.
Thank you.
Bruce?
Yeah, I was wondering about your the bus boarding island stuff is for when it's a protected bike lane, right? But so how about if it's you know, just sort of a normal bike lane? Then I guess if there's parking lane, then the bus parks in the parking lane. But if there's no parking lane and it's just a bus, or sorry, a bike lane against the curb, I guess I mean, I don't know, what are the standards, I guess, for these other scenarios?
Yeah, thanks for that. This document will address several different configurations for bus stop and bike lane interactions. The boarding island is just our preferred. The boarding island with the sidewalk level bike lane is just our preferred. And we understand it's not possible everywhere. And even for AC Transit, we don't like having boarding islands on streets where the speed limit is 35 miles per hour or greater, because it's just unsafe for the bus to be stopped in lane like that. But this document will address different configurations for the bus stop and bike facilities, including something like what you're talking about, where it's the class 2 bikeway and the bus will have to pull in against the curb into the bike lane at some points.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands up from the committee members, so we'll go to the public. I see a hand up from Matt Turner. Give me a second. I unmute you. You may speak.
Hey, just wanted to
I muted you. That was kind of okay. I'm gonna try again. Okay. I'm not sure.
Trying one more time.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Does it work now?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, sorry about that. My mic acts up sometimes. I just want to say, been following with the ACTC BPAC, the San Pablo corridor for a while, and this design is the standard, and it's, you know, it's looking like it works really well. One thing to take note of on the East 14th example is that just up the street on 164th, that bus stop is currently being used as an example across the nation in slides I've seen from multiple consultants on what not to do, because the art installation there actually hits the handlebars of bikes that are trying to get up behind the bus station. But other than that, the layout is excellent, and really appreciate your work. Thank you.
Next we have Tyler.
Yeah, thank you. I much prefer this design of bus stop that you showed for us today. I do believe the kind that's at 167th going south on East 14th Street, where it does use the bike lane as like a bus stop, you know, bike lane hybrid. I think it is worth the infrastructure to actually not have that sort of design. I mean, I think that, you know, this is my route to Bayfair BART, and you know, the bus pulling into that stop makes it really hazardous, and difficult for the driver as well. Whenever I'm met with a bus, and we both, you know, essentially are trying to use that space. So, you know, that's my feedback. I also want to, and I believe I've told AC Transit, you know, in the past before, but you know, the bus stop at East Llewellyn and Mission Boulevard, you know, a couple blocks to the south of 167th. You know, that bus stop shares a driveway with a gas station, and the gas station itself is on an island, not connected to anything. So I mean, even our bus stops are car centric, if you could believe it. So I think it, and I know it's going through an eventual you know, redesign and remodel throughout this area. I'm just wondering how much it would and how much time and effort it would take to just move that bus stop on the other side of the intersection, in front of Jack in the Box. It's just a really, really awful spot for a bus stop. All right, thank you.
And thank you for bringing that stop at Llewellyn and Mission up. Just so you know, that's one that I was talking about with our operations team very recently, and we are looking at relocation options for that one.
That's all the public speakers that we have on this item. Thank you for your update, Crystal.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go back to our agenda. That we have an item. This is me. The review of the fiscal year 2025 TDA, Article 3, pedestrian and bicycle program projects. All this, the TDA Article 3 funding. So this is an annual funding that that we get for bicycle and pedestrian safety projects. It's an amount of funding that gets split between the 14 cities and the unincorporated areas of Alameda County based on population. We're going through the process right now of reviewing projects, each jurisdiction, and then we'll present it to the MTC, submitted like the applications to them with our list of projects for their approval in the fall of this year. And the funding will be for next fiscal year. So this is funding for these types of projects. I've linked the resolution here at the bottom if you want to click on it, but there's a section here that I just captured the bullets of what projects we can use it on. So it's for construction of or engineering for bicycle and pedestrian capital or quick build projects, some maintenance, class 1 shared use path, and class 4 bikeway equipment and things like that. That's eligible also. Bicycle and pedestrian safety education programs, but there's a limit on no more than 5% of the funding that whole county gets. And then development of comprehensive bicycle pedestrian facility plans. I think that includes things like the bicycle and pedestrian master plan. And also we could use it for restriping class 2 bicycle lanes. But there's a limit on that in terms of how much, similar to that third bullet, there's a limit on how much we can spend from the allocations for the whole county in that area. And I guess I just already touched on some of these. In the past, we have used this funding, the TDA funding, on pedestrian ramp constructions crosswalk improvements such as installing rectangular rapid flashing beacons, hawk signals, and pedestrian refuge island installations. Some other jurisdictions, example projects from their project list are shared use path maintenance, like the narrow street sweeping things for the equipment for the bike lanes that are like 5 feet. Class 4, the class 4 facility street sweeper. Sidewalk projects like minor repair projects, gap closure type of sidewalk projects. And then also bike ped safety education programs. Again, if you're interested in looking at the whole resolution for the TDA funding, I've linked it at this slide, and it's the same one that you saw in the previous slide. These were our past projects, which were presented to you. I just went back a few years from fiscal year 2022. We put $100,000 in the ped ramp program, pedestrian ramp construction. That's for like the ADA ramps that we were required to update or install when we do resurfacing projects. And we spent part of that year's funding also on the Anita Avenue sidewalk project in 22-23. This is like the annual, the pedestrian ramp construction project is annual. That's why you're seeing it again here, like in the 2023 year. And if you remember last year, I've informed you about we split it 1/3 and 2/3 between the RRFB installation and you're going to use the $282,000 on the bicycle and pedestrian master plan update. And for fiscal year 2024, 2025, these are potential projects that I would like to get your feedback on. This is we evaluated the type of projects that we have, and these are, I guess, the projects that would be better spent on, like, to use these funds. The first one is the bike ped master plan update. I just mentioned that for last fiscal year, we're planning to spend part of that funding towards the master plan update, but we anticipate it's going to cost a lot more money because of the extensive public outreach and the evaluations that the consultant will need to do. So I don't have the estimate of how much it's going to be, but it could use, potentially we'll need to apply for using additional funding, adding to this one project. That makes sense. And then the other option is a safety action plan project. We received funding from the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. We applied for funding to prepare a safety action plan. The estimate was $500,000, and we received the grant for $250,000. So this TDA could potentially be a matching fund for the unfunded amounts. And then the other potential projects are, again, installing the pedestrian ramp for our annual pavement rehab pedestrian ramp installation projects. Also, we could restripe bike lanes, like adding green paint to bike lanes where they're needed, and then also repair damaged sidewalk, the sidewalk repair program. And so, yeah, this is my presentation, and I would like to get your feedback on which projects you would like to approve. And I'm going to have to stop sharing my screen here so that I can see whose hands are raised. I'll go to the panelists first. I didn't see who raised their hand, but I'll go alphabetically. I'll go Bruce and then Daniel. Then Michael.
Yes, I'd like to recommend we restripe Somerset. That would be, I think that was everybody's top priority here that spoke. But there are other places also. For example, East Castro Valley Boulevard from center eastward. Basically, you can have a continuous bike lane from Center Street all the way to Pleasanton, one continuous bike lane. If you would restripe that section between that Upper Safeway and Center, right? So that section between Center and Crow Canyon is super extra wide, just waiting to be striped. And then we need to get rid of that parking in front of that, I forgot what's called, something steel, doesn't appear to be in operation anymore. He's got his own parking, and so do the people in the apartments. And there's a car there that's just been sitting there for, it's been stored long term because it's got all that debris underneath the tires. So I was going to send a picture of that to you guys. So we should, you know, finish the bike lane all the way from right before that light all the way to Center. So that I would like to also ask about these pedestrian ramps. You know, we keep producing these pedestrian ramps that are actually pretty hostile to pedestrians. We make these really, and they're great for driving a car, race car driving, in fact. You know, there's this huge radius round curves that encourage speed. And then we put a single ramp in. And so when a person stands on the ramp, we can't even tell what street they want to cross because it's in the middle. And so, you know, I would say if we do any more of these ramps, we need to sharpen the corner and put 2 pedestrian ramps so that we know where people, you know, want to cross. And that also shortens the distance, because when you put the ramp in the middle, it actually increases the distance. We have examples here. It's really very sad, but we have examples like on Lake Chabot Road and also on Redwood Road, where you guys have actually installed bulb outs that are so bad that they're actually worse than if you had just sharpened the corner. We could have saved a lot of money. Sharpened the corner and put 2 pedestrian ramps. That would make the pedestrians more visible to the drivers than what you guys have put together, and it would have shortened the distance of travel more than putting this ramp in the middle of a bulb out. So if we do bulb outs, we definitely should sharpen and put in two pedestrian ramps, because the whole point of these bulb outs is to have the pedestrians to be visible and shorten the danger within the street. Let's see. Oh, I had a question. How do you guys sweep that bike ped bridge that I love so much?
Which one?
The one that over the freeway. So it's at Nunez, you know, basically like Nunez and Norbridge, and it goes over to I think Lake Chabot Road.
Well, how does it get swept? I don't know. I can find out and let you know next time.
I'd love to know that, because there's often glass there, and I've called on it a number of times, and you guys are pretty good. You don't always get it, but you get it a lot, and so I was just curious how you do it. It's, you know, relatively long, and that would kind of fit in this equipment that you were mentioning. So I guess that's it. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Dan?
Yes, Amber, thank you for sharing that TDA report with us. I know that money is not easy to come by, and it's not huge money. So 450,000 sounds actually pretty good. And those are all good items, your 5 or 6 bullets there. But maybe the one that you could leverage the most might be the master plan, because then that could multiply itself potentially, where it gives decision makers something they can point to if developers come in. Just a thought, like if some or much of that money was spent on updating those documents that can be used in the future and give more solid ways to either with county projects or with developers that they can add more bikeways.
Thank you, Dan. We'll go to Michael now.
Hi, thank you. I'm going to agree with Dan on that. That wasn't my goal, but I like that idea, because I do know it's important, especially when we've applied for grants and funding, pointing to a plan, especially a recently adopted plan or updated plans. That does help a lot. So just, you know, from that standpoint, I'll just second Dan's idea there. And then outside of that, I don't really have any preference. I was going to ask, so the funding, that's it comes in annually. What's it based on, did you say? And so does the amount change year to year?
Yeah, it does. I don't know how the amount total, how that's calculated, but the split is by population.
Okay.
So the smaller cities like Emeryville, I think, yeah, just the smaller cities, they would get less. Like Oakland, get a little bit more based on their population. Hayward.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just thinking ahead for future things as some other projects develop. Like that's just a nice little source of. I mean, you're always going to need it for something, but it's just nice to see that list of what things are possible. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more hands from the committee, so we'll go to public comments. There are 2, and then we'll come back and try to get a vote from you guys. Let me see. I think Matt Turner's hand was up first, so I'm gonna call on him. I really don't like Zoom.
Hopefully my mic is working now. Okay.
Yeah, it works fine.
Okay, great. In these designs, I really wanted to add to what Bruce was saying, that sometimes they are very pedestrian unfriendly. You know, in a number of locations, the turning radius has actually gotten bigger, particularly in residential neighborhoods. And there are many streets in Castro Valley, in particular, where there's only a single point of crossing. It's not a 4-way intersection. It's just, you know, crossing in the direction of the main boulevard, not crossing a main boulevard, for example. And these bulb outs are angled out into the street. And we have a number of people in my neighborhood who are visually impaired and navigate by cane. And I have actually had to pull over my car, jump out, and redirect them back to the sidewalk because they were following the angle that they were presented with and wandering out into the street, thinking that they were going to do a lateral crossing. And this design is very dangerous, and it causes property damage. One of these curbs that was done actually broke the sewer lateral in a person's yard. And that person was not even notified that the work was going to take place. So, and I don't put that on Public Works. I put that on the subcontractors who are doing these. But they, you know, oftentimes don't even put out the A-frames until, you know, like 12 hours before the work. I mean, there needs to be some kind of review for the contractors who are doing these projects, and there really needs to be design review. One of the examples given, you know, in your previous slide where it showed, you know, the ramp being done for a crosswalk, that dip in the sidewalk actually causes people to trip. I've watched seniors have real trouble navigating that, just trying to make a straight line, trying to walk to Trader Joe's, for example, where that dip has been installed on the normal route. It would be better to have a bulb out because there's no parking on the you know, on the crosswalk, obviously. So there's no hindrance to actually making that bulb out into what would, you know, be the parking area. It would shorten the crossing and make a much safer navigation. It's only a matter of time before someone has an injury tripping and falling on these dips that are installed, you know, on the normal path of travel for the sidewalk. So it's very pedestrian hostile. And they also gather debris in that dip or water. And it's something that should really be avoided in all future designs. And the shrinking of the radius is really key. It would shorten the path of travel. This is where most injuries and accidents happen, is in an intersection. So the less time we have people traveling in it, the better. And there's supposed to be a design review in order to approve this funding. And I see that missing. So anyway, thanks.
Roy, I think your hand was up next. Oops.
There we go. Actually, I went over the bridge that Bruce mentioned today. There is a lot of debris on that bridge, actually. So I would not spend any money on updating the bike ped master plan, because the point is not to have a plan. The point is to implement the plan. And you have barely implemented any of the existing plans. So I don't see why you would spend money on creating a new plan. There's no point in just having something on paper. I would spend the money on doing stuff and getting stuff done, actually. And I would really focus on small things that can make a big difference. They're called low cost, high value. Yeah. Striping bike lanes green. Compare Castro Valley and the unincorporated area to Berkeley and Emeryville. They stripe the whole bike lane green. And it's an incredible safety feature because it delineates very clearly. Cars coming out of side streets, driveways, it's very clear to them they're pulling out across a driveway, out across a bike lane. So I would just really spend the money on really getting some of the current, infrastructure into the 21st century with simple things. And don't waste money on building another plan that's never actually ever going to get implemented. Thank you.
Michael Freed.
Hi, good evening again. I actually didn't know I was still on the meeting. I just got home and then I heard a question from Michael Williams about funding and how funds are allocated. I'm not sure exactly what the potential was, but you mentioned that smaller towns like Emeryville would get less funding than other larger towns. And I'm just wondering, is there contingency for unincorporated areas which aren't really towns? Is that part of the whole equation when you're speaking about how funding is allocated? So if you just clarify that for me, I'd appreciate it. Is there any money, for instance, for Cherryland, Ashland, San Lorenzo, or is that just, it's unincorporated, so it didn't count?
Yes, unincorporated gets 15%. And that's all of unincorporated.
Right. So that's for the entire unincorporated, because some areas are more needy than others. So I hope within that decision, there's maybe some, some are really need more than some of the towns really need. So I hope that there's some consideration for that potential need. I know funds are limited all the way around, but anyway, thank you for that.
Thank you. One more hand, Mimi. You can speak anytime.
Here I am. Sorry about that. All right, so am I correct in that this is another public works project?
Yes.
Yes, all right. So I just want to read the mission statement of Alameda County Public Works Department. It's to enhance the quality of life of the people of Alameda County by providing a safe, well-maintained, and lasting public works infrastructure through accessible, responsive, and effective services. The vision is Alameda County Public Works Agency is recognized by the community and professional organizations as a leader in innovation, service delivery, and employee excellence. So listening to both of these presentations tonight, I'm wondering how Public Works can justify that they are actually following their mission. These projects are related. They're both about bicycles, right? And, we need more bicycle lanes. We need enhanced bicycle and pedestrian access to our communities. It's good for our businesses. It's good for our safety of our people, which is part of the mission statement of Public Works, providing a safe, well-maintained, and lasting public works infrastructure. Wow. Enhance the quality of life. Wow, that sounds like what Tyler was saying about life and liberty. So I just would like to say that I would like to see our public servants serving the public. And I really appreciate this meeting tonight and all the comments that people that sit on this board made tonight. Thank you so much. And I think that's all I have to say. more bike lanes. Climate change is real. Thank you.
Tyler Dragoni.
Thank you for that. Since we were talking about our areas that were really gravelly and unswept that were bike lanes, Paseo Grande, over 880 it's full of glass, it's full of debris, screws, construction sort of, construction elements. So I would just urge, a sweeping of that if that's possible to, utilize these funds for, because there are a lot of areas of bike infrastructure that are pretty difficult when it comes to debris on the roadway. Another one is on way down there by the shore. I think that is not Bachman, but Grant. Yes, Grant. That's really, really hard as far as to navigate as far as construction debris. And it would be great if we can, sweep more areas. Thank you. Thank you, Mimi.
That's all the public comments that we have. Bruce, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I do agree with there's a lot of debris on the shoulder, whether there's a bike lane or not, and super critical to sweep that up.
We can't hear you, Bruce.
Oh, sorry. I think it's I agree with Tyler. It's very difficult, with debris on the side. It needs to be swept, because you have to go out into the traffic otherwise. And but I think the places he's talking about just as a standard sweeper, we don't necessarily need to have that narrow sweeper. But otherwise, I was going to interesting comment about wasting money on the plan. I do understand the Dan his comment about having a multiplier effect, but it doesn't really, I guess, if it's not being used. So I guess I vote for restriping some bike lanes. And I think we should work on the Cherryland and Ashland area and try to emphasize restriping some bike lanes down there.
So yeah, thank you for your comments. I just want to say that the bike ped master plan does need to be updated. Those are good for 5 years, and we need to reevaluate them. That's why we need to update them. We're not building a new plan, and it's just one of the sources from all of our projects. We did do some projects from here, but we also go with our safe routes to school plan and their we also work on other projects. So what I heard is we have some committee members that are for the bike ped master plan update and also the restriping, and I just want to let you know again, there is a restriction on the amount of money that we can spend on restriping the bike lane. If you read the resolution in that TDA grant, is linked in the presentation at the bottom. I think it was 20% of the total allocation. So we would try, if you decide to pick that one, we would try to maximize what we can spend on restriping, and then we would need another project in order to use up the 464,000. I just want to let you guys know. So yeah, if
Bruce, 80-20, what do you think? 80% plan, 20% striping?
Sure, I like it.
So can I get a motion from you guys, and then
okay, I move to spend 80, is it 20% you said on bike lane striping, and the 80% on the bike ped lane.
He said 80-20. I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I have to go to votes now, but I see that some of our committee members have left. So if the ones that are remaining, I have Michael and Bruce and Dan, if you all agree to that. I got the motion and second from Dan and Bruce. So Michael, if you're okay with that split, we'll go with that for our application.
I'm good with that. I agree. Aye.
Oh, and Crystal's still here.
I also vote yes on that split.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So we'll consider that to be approved.
Okay.
I have one more thing to cover in the agenda. Thank you for staying with me. And it's the future agenda topics. We still have the one about the climate action. I know that one's on the list. And then there was a Design 101 request. Those two items. If there's any other suggestions?
Yeah, so the design, the 101 you're talking about, like bike lane design, is that what that one is?
Kind of like what it takes for us to do the design for our projects. I would think like kind of you guys mentioned about the pedestrian ramps. There's a difference. Like pedestrian ramps is the ramp that goes up onto the sidewalk, right? For the wheelchairs, but the whole thing all the way around is called a curb return. And then when you do bulb outs, it's not like a ped ramp, it's the whole curb return there. So yeah, it's like things like that might be covered. And Dan has graciously agreed to teach the Design 101.
Only 3-minute questions, Bruce. 3-minute maximum.
Okay, I would like to, for future topics, I would like to suggest a level of stress for level of traffic stress, I think it's called, for cycling. You know, we both Amber and I took a course in this, and I would like to map the unincorporated area and see what it looks like. That would be a topic I would like to see. I would also like to see a pedestrian level of service. I know when we talked about this intersection at Redwood and Maple, the report that the consultant didn't consider the pedestrian at all. It was all about level of service between D and an F for cars, and that's it. And I mean, that was just disgusting. I was disgusted with that. So we need to have a level of service for pedestrians. We need to have some kind of representation for pedestrians. That was not considered at all in that study. And then another one is wayfinding signs. You know, I know the community development, Alameda County Community Development is working on signs, and our bike and pedestrian master plan call for wayfinding signs. So as part of our whole setup. So we should definitely work on wayfinding signs. In fact, that might be a thing that we could spend that money on, that 80-20. The Marin County has a really nice system where they have like these numbered bikeways, and because the bikeway goes all over the place, take a left, take a right, all over, and all you have to do is follow the number. I need to take number 8 to get to this particular town, and then you just follow those signs, and they're just excellent. So well done over there in Marin County. So that's the kind of thing. Thanks.
Thank you. I see one hand up. Roy Taylor, can we just make this really short? You don't need the whole 3 minutes, do you?
I don't. I only just realized I can unmute myself. I didn't realize that. I was waiting for you to put the thing up to unmute me every time, actually. No, I can go really quick. I think based on the overwhelming feedback you've received today, you need to bring back Somerset to a future meeting with your revised design. That's all.
I think that's the end of our meeting. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying all the way to the end. I'm adjourning this meeting at 8:21. Our next meeting will be in person. It's going to be at one of the libraries. I have not reserved it yet. I think we're supposed to alternate between the San Lorenzo Library and the Castro Valley Library. It's supposed to be at the Castro Valley one, but I think they have a standing meeting on the 4th Thursdays. That's already, it's already taken. But I'll let you guys know before the meeting. And that's going to be, I think, on June 27th. That's the fourth Thursday. Thank you so much, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
You.
See you later.